The Nikkor Z 70-180mm f2.8 is a full-frame telephoto zoom lens announced in June of 2023 with a suggested retail price of $1,249.95, completing a non-S-line trinity of lenses probably made by Tamron but branded by Nikon. It gets 9 rounded diaphragm blades and a constant aperture range of f2.8 at the widest and f22 stopped all the way down. It has a rather complicated optical construction of 19 elements and 14 groups, including 5 ED, 1 Super ED, and 3 S-spherical elements, and only gets Nikon's Super Integrated coating. Whoop-de-doo, because pretty much all of their lenses get that, at least. It's an internally focusing but externally zooming lens with a minimum focus distance of 0.27 meters, that's 0.89 feet at 70 millimeters, and 0.85 meters or 2.79 feet at 180 millimeters. It weighs in at 795 grams, that's 1 pound 12.1 ounces, and is dimensionally 83.5 by 151 millimeters or 3.3 by 6 inches. Alright, so first impressions of the 70-180 Nikkor, probably Tamron made but Nikon branded. Something I really like about this already, pretty short throw. You can do that with like one rotation of the fingers. Just barely. If it was any more, you might have to reset just a tad. But I have short fingers, and I can do that no problem. Unfortunately, we don't have a manual focus ring. We have this aperture ring that we see on a lot of Nikon lenses, which I generally turn off because I always bump it. But if you're going to get this lens, you might set that to manual focus because this one zooms. You're not going to be able to see this on camera, but something that is really nice about this lens is when you zoom, that rear element doesn't sink into the body. So you don't have to worry about crap and dust and dirt and sand and grime and blood and spit and tears getting in between the barrel and those moving mechanisms, you know, and then eventually you'd have like a crunchiness in there. You wouldn't want that. You don't have to worry about that because the rear element just stays where it is. On this lens, we have a locking switch, which is nice and clicky. It feels really good. Feels really snappy, really tight. That only works whenever you're at 70. It doesn't work anywhere else. But whenever you're at 70, you can lock that and you don't have to worry about it drifting on you. But I don't think it actually drifts. No, it doesn't drift. Not from 70 to 180. However, no, it doesn't drift whenever it's at 180 standing straight up. So that's nice. Not all Nikon Z lenses do that. Some of them do indeed drift. But this lens, I wouldn't expect it to because it's actually not that front heavy. That front element doesn't really seem like it weighs a whole lot. And so it's pretty nice. I like that. As far as construction wise, it's mostly plastic. It's not even metal. Back here, we do have a metal lens mount, which is nice, but I would say that this is kind of below what we expect from Nikon Z lenses. I would probably give this a 1 on build quality because, I mean, even this, you get metal on a lot of Z lenses right there around the barrel, right in here. This lens is made in China. Who cares? As long as they make quality lenses, I don't really care where stuff is made anymore. There's absolutely no buttons, function buttons or switches or anything, and so there's not really a whole lot to be said about this particular lens. There's just not like a whole lot going on. That may not be a bad thing, you know, if you want less frilly stuff to distract you. For what it's worth, I think this barrel right here, it's actually metal. No, it's not. It's plastic, but it was cold to the touch, and so I thought it was metal. It's not. We're keeping this at a lowest grade for construction. It's just doesn't seem like it's very well made, but we can check the balance in the hand. Tilts back a little bit whenever it's closed. Actually feels pretty good whenever it's extended, but we need to check this out. Throw the lens cap, Z-Wade. I want to check this out on the Nikon Z6 III. Now, I'm doing all of these lens tests on 45 megapixel sensors. So most of them have been on the Z8, but the Z9 is not out of the question. I just want some consistency in the megapixels. That helps me get a good idea of the sharpness and the resolution of the lens if I do all of my comparisons on 45 megapixels. But this is a more affordable setup for somebody that doesn't want to spring for the 70 to 200, or maybe just can't spring for the 70 to 200. This is going to be a really good setup, right? And so let's see how this balances at 70. It's front heavy, of course. And we tilt it out. And it actually doesn't change that much. It's not going to slip out of the fingers. So that's actually a good thing, right? It doesn't change. It doesn't get super front heavy whenever you zoom it out. That's good. We're going to get out into the field now, and we're going to do our rudimentary testing. It's a little bit different this time because we have upwards of 65-mile-an-hour wind gusts on this weekend that I'm testing a couple of lenses. And so we're going to do it voiceover style this time. Who knows? Maybe I like it. Maybe that's what I do from now on. I don't have a whole lot of lenses left to actually review before I'm totally caught up with the Nikon Z line. If you want to see how I grade all these lenses that I've tested so far, go to zwadephoto.com/the Optic Explorer, and you can see the grade that I give to every single one for sharpness, color rendition, contrast, all of the things that are important to me. I give a score to, and then I give an overall grade. And that's zwadephoto.com/the Optic Explorer. Also, this is the final lens in the more affordable, more reasonable Trinity. So far, these have been an excellent option, and so I'm actually really looking forward to seeing if this joins the party. The reason I mentioned that this is the last one is because coming very soon, I will be doing an overall review of all of these lenses and my final thoughts now that I've tried them all, and whether I think it's actually worth the money to spring for the f2.8S lenses. It may or may not be worth even springing for them, depending on the kind of photographer and consumer that you are. So I invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss that video whenever it comes out. Now, let's go out into the field and let's see how this lens does. So we step out into the field, and the first thing we got to check is our focus speed. And it's really fast. It's not as fast as the 70 to 200 f2.8, but it is really quick for the money. It does jitter a little bit sometimes. I have to say, this lens looks good through the viewfinder, very crispy. And we see more of the focusing speed. The red saturation looks like it's a moderate performer. Blue saturation looks okay. Green seems to be possibly the richest color, and yellows might be a little weak, at least through the viewfinder. And that's confirmed by incorporating more colors into the picture. Look at this little piece of art. Come over here for our black and white ability test. But first I'm playing around with minimum focus, which is about right there, zoomed all the way in. And now we can take our black and white ability shot and a shot to see how it's going to control fringing. Just panning around the art, I can't help but think that this lens does look really good through the viewfinder. Not quite special look bonus, but it looks really good. All right, so jumping into the results of our lens test, this lens, there's one other lens that I can't recall right now that has a little bit of this orangish kind of hue to the reds. Don't necessarily like that, only because, not that it can't be easily fixed, but it's just not in line with the rest of Nikon's reds, which are generally very, very rich. And this just is a little bit off on the color. Sharpness, I'm just kind of saying at the moment, it's just kind of sharp enough. Let's look at the blue saturation. The blue saturation is okay, maybe slightly more saturated than natural. And going to the greens, through the viewfinder, the yellows looked slightly weak, and the greens looked like maybe they're the richest color, and I would say that's the case. The greens are the most rich as far as the colors I look at, and the yellow is kind of just middle of the road, I think. Let's look at this. Yep, very just kind of normal. It's not any more saturated than natural, I don't think. If it is, maybe just slightly. Let's look at this, take a look at the sharpness here. I'd call this sharp. It's better than sharp enough. Probably give that a 2. Okay, we did this at 70mm f2.8. So I think at 70, it's just kind of like a 1 on sharpness, which I would say is just sharp enough. And then we zoom in at 180, it seems like it sharpens up. And so this is weird. I would like to give it a 1.5, but I feel like if you have this lens, you're often shooting not at 70mm, at least I'm not. I'd probably give this a 2. I have to think about this a little bit. Good amount of contrast in this lens. That's good. That's helping it appear more sharp than it is because it's detailed because of all the little differences in tone, because of the strong contrast that we get. All right, now for our black and white ability, you know the rules. We just do one click and, oh boy, that is flat. That is not a strong performance on black and white ability. Let's hit it with a little BW grit and gravy. That helps. I think Gravedigger is the move for this one. Just not a strong performance on black and white. I took this one at f5.6. I want to look at the differences. Yeah, we have significant increase in sharpness. Of course, I would maybe shoot this lens pretty regularly at 3.5 or something. Not that it's particularly soft at f2.8, but it's definitely not a super strong sharpness performer at f2.8. And I did take these to test out fringing, but I accidentally shot them at f5.6. There is a little bit of green fringe back here. This is the absolute extreme, very, very thin object against absolutely blown out whites. At 5.6, it's not necessarily unheard of, but it's not exactly common in the Nikon Z lineup, which don't suffer from fringing at all in many of the lenses. But this is a significantly less expensive lens, and so you have to have some trade-offs. I didn't even notice those until I zoomed in anyway, so we can get over it. And that's what we have for the test images. Seems middle of the road at the moment. It'll take me a little bit to actually gather my thoughts, and we'll have that by the end of the video. Now we can jump into the walk-around images. Now, any of the presets that you're about to see, you could pick those up for yourself if you like them at zwadephoto.com/digital products. First little image here, this wonderful piece of art. We did this at f4. I think maybe the wind must have kicked up and started blowing these leaves. Got a little motion blur in those top leaves. It's a little sharper down here where it's structurally more sound. Very middle of the road image. If I just add a little contrast, looks pretty good. Just a tiny bit of vignetting still at f4. Again, the red has a little bit of this orange kind of feel to it. I was going through my presets and I actually really like this one with my preset Fuji Paris. Love it. Got this little color up here that reminds me of like Fujifilm. Let's get in on this little flower here. This is shot at f2.8, 180 millimeter. Developing more of an opinion on what I think about this lens's sharpness. On this one, I kind of like the really subtle urine of a ram. Let's get on these little flowers. I have two of these that are pretty similar, and I'll probably just see which one I like. I already like this one a lot more. Let's give this a little contrast, and I think I might just kind of want to leave it there. I kind of like the colors that are going on with it already. Give it a little clarity, some dehaze. This needs a little vignette as always. I like that. No preset this time. The weekend I was shooting this lens was St. Patty's Day, and so it was incredibly crowded downtown, but I found my way into the new brewery that is here in town, and I ordered one of these, and I don't know what I was doing with the composition, but I definitely screwed that up. So let's just fix that real quick and pretend it didn't happen. And there's two presets I like for these beer mug shots. One of them is Black Tar Heroic, which you're looking at right now. And the other one is Blue Mood Portrait, which is this one, which I developed for portraits, but I really like how it looks with beer mugs. I want to get in here and look at this. Really noisy because I'm at 1000 ISO and I'm at f2.8 and I'm at 1/100th of a second, and it was still underexposed. So incredibly dark in this brewery, but you know, just a little bit of noise reduction here. It's fine. Now this one was probably my favorite shot of my little walk around. This is the brewmaster, and he finished off one of the taps, and so he was erasing it, and this light was coming down so pretty on his face, and as he was wiping, he was blocking the light, and then it would be revealed, and then he'd block it, and then he'd reveal as he was going back and forth. And so I timed it, took a couple shots. This is the one that I kept, and I just know that this is going to be so good in black and white. And there you go, BW Grit and Gravy. It's so good. And if I wanted to just like make that a little darker, Gravedigger, one click, I kind of like that even better because I love hiding things in shadow. Absolutely sick. I love this shot. The only thing I might do is just barely brighten this area up. Just refine that. There we go. Just a tiny bit, just 0.23 on exposure. Love this shot. Then went into the bike shop, and I'm not going to edit this image at all. But I see a little bit of purple fringing in this extreme, very thin reflections and super, super bright. Little fringing, f2.8, 70 millimeter. Maybe I'll edit this because I accidentally hovered over Black Tar Heroic and I think it looks sick. Again, this red still has a little bit of this orange kind of flavor to it, which that's fine. That might be your thing. It's just not in line with most Nikon lenses. Oh man, again, Black Tar Heroic is just working today. Like I said earlier, St. Patty's Day, I got this skeleton on a bike. He's got a parrot and a leprechaun hat on. I don't even know what I want to do with this one. Gravedigger looks good, but I kind of want that green coming through. So since I want that green coming through, I'll probably just give this one like a little regular play. Give it some contrast, pull the highlights, boost the shadows, blah, blah, blah. There we go. I kind of think that either Fuji Thoughts for a more subtle. Yeah, I like that. I like Fuji Thoughts. And we got an up close of the gear shifting mechanism or whatever, you know, the Shimano. And Gravedigger, of course. Gravedigger to end on. Give this a little bit of vignetting. There we go. I dig it. So what can be said about the Nikkor Z 70 to 180mm f2.8? Well, this was a rather difficult one for me to score, and I still haven't quite settled on anything in particular. I feel like I may end up going back and changing my mind over many weeks as I think and as I dwell and as it keeps me up at night because it was that difficult to land on something. The sharpness was okay, but I ended up upgrading it to a 2. The contrast I legitimately find to be pretty good on this lens. The color saturation, while there are some oddities, is really middle of the road. The black and white ability, I mean, it was just flatter than flat. I do, however, think this lens stands out in its versatility, being a 70 to 180. You can do quite a lot of things with that, and the fact that it's f2.8 just makes it more versatile in my opinion. One thing is for certain. Does it even come close to its big brother, the Nikkor Z70 to 200mm f2.8s? No, absolutely nowhere close, but I find that lens to be overpriced, and I think this one is right where it needs to be. Overall, I think this lens can comfortably find its way into the yes category of cost-effective f2.8 Trinity lenses. Absolutely fantastic option for beginners or even budget-minded professionals who don't need the absolute top-of-the-line optics right now. I think it would be worth it in the future to consider upgrading to the more premium options that are available, but with the other cost-effective members of the Trinity and the Nikkor Z 70 to 180mm f2.8, I think you have a lens that will carry you through many, many years. If you're considering picking up this lens for yourself and I have provided any value for you today, or if I've just simply entertained you, I hope you'll consider using the link in the description. I'll earn a 2% commission if you do so. I'm Z-Wade, the Z-Wade, and Z-Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.